The lemonade stand. Keanu Reeves had always loved walking through the city streets early in the morning, long before the chaos of the day began. It was a rare chance for him to blend in, just another face in the crowd, unnoticed and unbothered. He didn't need the glamour or the lights to feel fulfilled. Simple joys were what truly mattered. This morning was no different, except for one thing. As he strolled down a quiet neighborhood street, the sun's first rays casting a golden glow on the sidewalks, something caught his eye. A little girl, no older than 8, stood at a tiny makeshift lemonade stand. Her table was wobbly, made of mismatched wood panels that looked like they'd been scavenged from someone's garage. A handwritten sign on cardboard read, "Lemonade, $1. For my brother." Keanu slowed his pace, curiosity tugging at him. The girl had a determined look on her face, her small hands nervously smoothing out her apron. Her blonde curls were tied back in a messy ponytail, and her eyes sparkled with an innocence that was impossible to ignore. Despite her youthful energy, there was something profound in her expression, a weight that no child her age should carry. "Good morning," Keanu said gently as he approached the stand. His voice startled her, and she looked up, her blue eyes wide with surprise. For a moment, she didn't recognize him. To her, he was just another kind stranger. "Hi," she said, standing up straighter. "Would you like some lemonade? It's only $1. Keanu smiled warmly. "I think I would. But tell me, why does the sign say it's for your brother?" Her face faltered for a brief second, as if she were debating whether to share. But something about Keanu's kind eyes reassured her. She sighed and said, "My brother, Danny, is really sick. He has a bad heart, and the doctors say he needs a surgery. Mommy and Daddy are doing everything they can, but we don't have enough money yet. So, I thought I could help." Keanu's chest tightened. This wasn't the answer he had expected, though he'd sensed there was a deeper story. "That's really brave of you," he said, crouching down to her level. "What's your name?" "Emma," she said shyly. "And my brother's name is Danny." "How old is Danny?" he asked. "He's 5," Emma said, her voice softening. "He used to play outside with me all the time, but now he can't. He gets tired really fast, and he has to stay in bed a lot. I miss playing with him." Keanu nodded, his heart breaking a little more with each word. "You love your brother a lot, huh?" Emma nodded vigorously. "He's my best friend." Keanu reached into his pocket and pulled out a crisp $20 bill. "I'll take a cup of lemonade, Emma." Her eyes widened as she looked at the money. "That's too much. It's only $1. Keanu chuckled. "Well, let's just say it's a tip for the best lemonade stand in town. But I want you to keep the change, okay? For Danny." Emma hesitated, clearly torn between gratitude and modesty. Finally, she nodded and handed him a small paper cup filled with lemonade. "Thank you," she said earnestly. "This will help a lot." Keanu took a sip of the lemonade, pretending it was the most refreshing drink he'd ever had. "Delicious," he said with a wink. "You've got a real talent here, Emma." Her smile lit up her face, but before she could respond, a woman's voice called out from the nearby house. "Emma, breakfast is ready." "That's my mom," Emma said, glancing toward the house. She looked back at Keanu. "Thank you again, mister. You're really nice." "You're welcome, Emma," he said. "And tell Danny I'm rooting for him, okay?" She nodded and ran off toward the house, her little apron bouncing as she went. Keanu stood there for a moment, watching her disappear inside. Then he looked down at the sign again. "For my brother." He couldn't shake the thought of Emma's determination and love for her brother. As he continued his walk, he found himself thinking about all the times life had tested him, how he'd struggled with loss and heartbreak. It wasn't fair that a little girl like Emma had to face something so heavy. He decided then and there that he couldn't just walk away and forget about her story. A deeper look into Emma's world. Keanu Reeves spent the rest of the day thinking about Emma and her lemonade stand. Her story had struck a deep chord within him, and the innocence yet determination in her eyes lingered in his mind. He couldn't help but feel a strong pull to do more for her family. The little girl had faced an overwhelming situation with a strength that was both inspiring and heartbreaking. Later that evening, as he sat in his quiet home, Keanu opened his laptop. The world knew him as an actor, but those closest to him knew he was also a man of action when it came to helping others. He decided to find out more about Emma and her brother. His first instinct was to revisit the neighborhood, but he knew he couldn't do that immediately without drawing attention. Instead, he reached out to a trusted friend, Hannah, who ran a local nonprofit organization that specialized in assisting families with medical expenses. They'd collaborated before on causes close to his heart, and he knew she'd understand. "Hey, Hannah," Keanu began over the phone. "I need your help with something." Hannah's warm, familiar voice replied, "Of course, Keanu. What's going on?" Keanu briefly shared the story of Emma, her lemonade stand, and her brother Danny. "I want to know more about this family's situation," he said, "and if there's a way to help them without overwhelming them." Hannah was quiet for a moment, and then she said, "I'll see what I can do. Give me the details of where you met them, and I'll do some digging." Families like Emma's often reach out to nonprofits like ours when medical expenses pile up. Keanu provided what little he knew about the neighborhood and Emma's situation. After hanging up, he felt a mix of hope and nervousness. He didn't want to intrude on their lives, but he couldn't sit back and do nothing. The next encounter. The following morning, Keanu decided to visit the neighborhood again. He walked the same path, hoping to see Emma at her lemonade stand. To his surprise, she was there, but this time her little table was accompanied by an older woman, her mother. The woman had a weary but kind expression, her eyes shadowed by worry. Keanu approached cautiously, not wanting to seem intrusive. Emma's face lit up as she recognized him. "You're back," she exclaimed. Her mother turned to look at Keanu, a mix of curiosity and guardedness in her expression. "Hello," she said politely, though her tone carried the unspoken question of why a stranger was interacting with her daughter. Keanu smiled warmly. "Good morning. I stopped by yesterday and had the best lemonade in town. I wanted to check in and see how Emma's business is going." Emma giggled. "I made $10 yesterday, and you were my first customer." Her mother looked at Emma with a gentle smile, but the exhaustion on her face didn't fade. Keanu decided to address her directly. "Hi, I'm Keanu," he said, extending a hand. "Emma told me about her brother Danny, and how hard you're all working to help him. I just wanted to say, you're raising an amazing little girl." The woman hesitated before shaking his hand. "Thank you. I'm Sarah," she replied. "It's been a tough time, but Emma's been determined to help in any way she can." Keanu sensed the hesitation in Sarah's voice and decided to tread carefully. "I won't take up too much of your time, but if there's anything I can do to help, please don't hesitate to let me know." Sarah's eyes softened, but there was a flicker of pride in her expression. "That's very kind of you, but we're managing. Danny's surgery is expensive, and we've been doing everything we can to raise the money." Keanu nodded, respecting her determination. "I understand. You're doing an incredible job, and Emma is proof of that." Before Sarah could respond, Emma chimed in. "Mommy, he gave me $20 yesterday for 1 cup of lemonade. He's really nice." Keanu chuckled. It was worth every penny. Sarah smiled faintly but seemed distracted. Keanu decided it was time to step back. "Well, I'll leave you to it, but I'll be back for another cup of lemonade soon, Emma." Emma beamed. "Okay, thank you." As Keanu walked away, he noticed a small tear in the shoulder of Sarah's sweater and the worn soles of her shoes. It was clear that the family was struggling more than Sarah wanted to admit. He clenched his fists, determined to find a way to help without making them feel like a charity case. Hannah's update. That evening, Keanu received a call from Hannah. "I found some information," she said. "Emma's family has been trying to fundraise for Danny's surgery for months. They've organized bake sales, garage sales, and even a small crowdfunding campaign online. But the cost of the surgery is astronomical, over $200,000. They've only managed to raise about $15,000 so far. Keanu's heart sank. And what happens if they can't raise the rest? Hannah sighed. Without the surgery, Danny's condition will continue to deteriorate. He might have a year, maybe two, before his heart gives out. It's heartbreaking. Keanu was silent for a moment, processing the gravity of the situation. Do they know how much time they have? I don't know, Hannah admitted, but they're fighting with everything they've got. Sarah, the mom, works 2 jobs. The dad is a mechanic. They're doing everything they can, but it's just not enough. Keanu took a deep breath. Can you send me the link to their crowdfunding page? Of course, Hannah said. What are you planning to do? I'm not sure yet, Keanu replied honestly, but I can't just sit by and do nothing. Anonymity and action. Over the next few days, Keanu quietly took action. He made a generous anonymous donation to the family's crowdfunding campaign, bringing them significantly closer to their goal. But he didn't stop there. He reached out to a trusted publicist and asked them to create a plan for spreading the family's story in a way that would inspire others to contribute. He also connected with a renowned pediatric cardiologist, hoping to explore options for Danny's surgery at a reduced cost or through a medical grant. The more he learned about Danny's condition, the more determined he became to ensure the little boy got the care he needed. The turning point. A week later, Keanu returned to the neighborhood. This time, he found Emma and Sarah packing up the lemonade stand. Emma's face lit up when she saw him. Hi. You came back. Keanu smiled. Of course. How's business? Emma grinned. Good. We made $50 this week. That's amazing, Keanu said. Then he turned to Sarah. How are you holding up? Sarah hesitated before answering. We're doing the best we can. Every little bit helps. Keanu nodded, then said, I don't mean to intrude, but I heard about your crowdfunding campaign. It's inspiring to see how hard you're working for Danny. I want you to know you're not alone in this. Sarah's eyes widened slightly. How? How do you know about that? I have a friend who works with families in similar situations, Keanu said carefully. She mentioned your story to me. I just wanted to let you know that there are people out there who care. For a moment, Sarah seemed too stunned to respond. Then, to Keanu's surprise, tears welled up in her eyes. Thank you, she said softly. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything, Keanu replied gently. Just keep being the amazing mom that you are. Danny and Emma are lucky to have you. The ripple of kindness. Over the next few days, Keanu Reeves worked tirelessly behind the scenes. His initial anonymous donation to the family's crowdfunding campaign had brought them closer to their goal, but he knew that money alone wasn't enough. Sarah and her family needed more than financial assistance. They needed hope, a sense that the world hadn't turned its back on them. A chance encounter. On a crisp Saturday morning, Keanu found himself walking back to Emma's neighborhood. He had no particular plan, just a desire to check in on the little girl whose determination had sparked something deep within him. As he rounded the corner toward her house, he saw Emma sitting on the front steps, her head resting on her knees. Emma, Keanu called softly as he approached. She looked up, her face lighting up when she saw him. Hi, she said, jumping to her feet. But her smile quickly faded. Danny's not feeling good today. Keanu's heart sank. I'm sorry to hear that. Is there anything I can do to help? Emma shrugged, her small shoulders slumping. I don't think so. Mommy said he just needs to rest. Keanu nodded, then sat down on the steps beside her. It must be hard seeing him like that. Emma nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. I just want him to get better. I miss playing with him. Keanu placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. You're doing everything you can. Emma, your brother knows how much you love him. They sat in silence for a few moments before Emma asked, "Why are you so nice?" Keanu smiled. "Because people like you remind me of what's important in life. Family, kindness, love. That's what matters." Emma thought about this for a moment, then leaned her head against his arm. "I'm glad you came back. A family in need." While Keanu sat with Emma, Sarah stepped out onto the porch, a tired smile on her face. "Hi, Keanu," she said. "Thank you for keeping Emma company." Keanu stood and offered a polite nod. "Of course, I just wanted to check in and see how you're all doing." Sarah sighed. "It's been tough. Danny had a rough night. He's so tired all the time now. We're trying to stay strong, but it's hard." Keanu hesitated before speaking. "Sarah, I don't want to overstep, but I know how overwhelming this must be for you. If there's anything I can do to help, please let me know." Sarah looked at him, her eyes filled with a mix of gratitude and vulnerability. "You've already done so much, just by showing up. Most people don't even notice us." Keanu's expression softened. "People should notice. You and your family are incredible. And I mean it. If you need anything, I'm here." A public push. That evening, Keanu decided it was time to take things a step further. He called Hannah and shared an idea he'd been mulling over. "Hannah, what if we amplify their story?" he asked. "Not in a way that feels exploitative, but something that inspires people to come together and help." Hannah hesitated. "You mean share their story publicly?" "Exactly," Keanu said. "But I want to protect their privacy as much as possible. Maybe we can focus on the broader message, how acts of kindness can make a difference." Hannah thought about it for a moment. "I think that could work. We could highlight their crowdfunding campaign and emphasize the importance of community support. I'll reach out to some local media outlets and see if they're interested." The media spotlight. Within days, the story began to spread. Local news outlets picked up the narrative, framing it as a tale of resilience and hope. They shared Emma's determination to help her brother through her lemonade stand, Sarah and her husband's relentless efforts to save their son, and the anonymous donor who had given their campaign a significant boost. The response was overwhelming. Donations poured in from across the country, with people leaving heartfelt messages of encouragement for the family. Schools organized bake sales, community centers held fundraisers, and individuals shared the campaign on social media, urging others to contribute. An unexpected visit. One evening, Sarah received a phone call from an unfamiliar number. "Hello," she answered cautiously. "Hi, is this Sarah?" a warm voice asked. "My name is Dr. Patel. I'm a pediatric cardiologist at St. Jude's Hospital. I came across your story and wanted to reach out." Sarah's heart raced. "Yes, this is Sarah. Is everything okay?" "I hope so," Dr. Patel said. "I've reviewed Danny's case and I believe we can perform the surgery he needs at our hospital. I've spoken with our board and we'd like to cover the costs through our charitable program." Sarah's breath caught in her throat. "Are you serious? You can help Danny?" "Absolutely," Dr. Patel said. "We can schedule the surgery as soon as next month. I'll have my team reach out to coordinate everything." Tears streamed down Sarah's face as she thanked the doctor repeatedly. After hanging up, she sank to her knees, overwhelmed by the sudden wave of hope. Keanu learns the news. The next day, Sarah called Keanu to share the incredible news. "Danny's surgery is going to happen," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. "A doctor from St. Jude saw our story and offered to help." Keanu felt a rush of relief and joy. "That's amazing, Sarah. I'm so happy for you." "It wouldn't have happened without you," Sarah said. "I don't know how to thank you." "You don't have to thank me," Keanu replied. "This was all because of you and Emma. Your strength inspired people to come together." The surgery day. When the day of Danny's surgery arrived, Sarah and her family were surrounded by love and support. Emma wore her best dress and carried a handmade card for her brother, while Sarah and her husband held on to each other, their hearts filled with both fear and hope. Keanu, true to his nature, stayed out of the spotlight but sent flowers and a handwritten note to the hospital. Thinking of you all today. Danny is going to be amazing. Keanu. The surgery was a success, and Danny's road to recovery began. As he grew stronger, Emma finally got her wish. Her little brother could play with her again. The new beginning. Weeks had passed since Danny's surgery, and the transformation in Emma's family was nothing short of miraculous. The little boy who once spent most of his days confined to his bed was now running around the house, his laughter echoing through the walls. For Emma, it was like getting her best friend back. On a sunny Saturday morning, Keanu decided to visit the family once more. He'd been keeping a respectful distance, knowing they needed time to adjust and heal, but now he felt it was time to check in. As he approached the familiar house, he noticed something different. The small front yard, once sparse and a little untidy, was now adorned with flowers and a freshly painted white picket fence. It seemed as though the family's newfound hope had spilled over into every aspect of their lives. Emma spotted him from the porch and ran toward him, her face glowing with excitement. "Keanu, you're here," she shouted, her little legs carrying her as fast as they could. Keanu crouched down to her level, catching her in a warm hug. "Hey, Emma, how's my favorite lemonade entrepreneur?" She giggled. "I'm good, but guess what? Danny's playing soccer in the backyard. You have to come see." Keanu followed her to the backyard, where he found Danny kicking a soccer ball with his father. The sight was heartwarming. A little boy full of life, laughing as he chased the ball. Sarah stood nearby, her face radiant as she watched her husband and son. "Keanu," Sarah called out, waving him over. "It's so good to see you." Keanu walked over, his heart swelling with gratitude for the family's happiness. "It's good to see all of you. Danny looks amazing." Sarah's eyes glistened with tears. "He's a completely different boy now. We owe so much to you." Keanu shook his head humbly. "You don't owe me anything. This is all because of your strength and determination as a family." Emma's surprise. As the afternoon wore on, Emma tugged on Keanu's sleeve. "I have something to show you," she said with a mischievous grin. Intrigued, Keanu let her lead him to the front yard, where she unveiled a new lemonade stand. This one was sturdier and more polished than her old setup, with brightly painted wood and a banner that read, "Emma's Lemonade, Spreading Smiles." Emma beamed with pride. "I made it with Daddy. And now, instead of raising money for Danny, I'm going to help other kids who need it." Keanu's heart swelled. "That's incredible, Emma. You're turning your kindness into something that will help so many people." Emma nodded, her face serious. "Danny's better now, but I know there are other kids like him. I want to help them." Keanu crouched down to her level, looking her in the eye. "You're a special person, Emma. Never lose that." The community rallies. Word of Emma's new lemonade stand quickly spread throughout the community, thanks in part to the local media outlets that had previously covered the family's story. People from all over the neighborhood came to buy lemonade, often leaving generous tips and words of encouragement. Some even brought their children, inspired by Emma's story, to teach their own kids about the power of kindness and giving back. Keanu, always mindful of keeping the focus on the family, supported Emma quietly. He would occasionally stop by to buy a cup of lemonade, staying just long enough to see the joy her efforts brought to others. But Emma's story didn't just stay local. With the help of Hannah and her nonprofit organization, Emma's lemonade stand became a symbol of hope. Donations poured in from people across the country, many of whom shared their own stories of overcoming challenges and finding strength in community. The funds raised through Emma's stand were donated to families in need, covering medical expenses, housing, and other critical needs. An unexpected call. One evening, as Keanu relaxed at home, his phone buzzed with a message from Hannah. It read, "Call me ASAP. Big news." Curious, Keanu dialed her number. "What's up, Hannah?" Her voice was brimming with excitement. "Keanu, you're not going to believe this. A major charity organization reached out after hearing about Emma's lemonade stand. They want to partner with her to create a national initiative to help kids with serious illnesses. Keanu was taken aback. "You're serious?" "Dead serious," Hannah replied. "They want to call it Emma's Hope Foundation, and they've asked if you'd be willing to be an ambassador for the initiative. Your involvement could take this to a whole new level." Keanu was silent for a moment, processing the enormity of what Hannah was saying. "This is amazing," he finally said, "but we need to make sure this stays true to Emma's vision. It's her kindness and determination that started all of this." "Absolutely," Hannah agreed. "They want Emma and her family to be at the center of it all. But having you involved could inspire even more people to join the cause." Keanu smiled, feeling a deep sense of purpose. "I'm in. Let's make it happen." The launch of Emma's Hope Foundation. In the weeks that followed, plans for the launch of Emma's Hope Foundation came together. A special event was organized in the community, bringing together families, local leaders, and supporters of the cause. The centerpiece of the event was Emma herself, who spoke shyly but passionately about why she wanted to help other kids like her brother. Keanu, true to his nature, stayed in the background, letting Emma and her family shine. But when he was called up to say a few words, he spoke with heartfelt sincerity. "Emma reminds us of something we all too often forget," he said, looking out at the crowd. "That even the smallest act of kindness can create ripples that change the world." She saw her brother in need and took action. She didn't wait for someone else to step in. She became the change. And now, because of her, countless other families will find hope. The applause that followed was thunderous, and Emma beamed with pride. A legacy of kindness. As Emma's Hope Foundation grew, so did its impact. The funds raised helped dozens of families access life-saving medical care, while the story of Emma's lemonade stand continued to inspire people around the world. Schools and community groups organized their own lemonade stands, contributing to the foundation and spreading Emma's message of kindness and hope. For Keanu, the experience was a reminder of why he valued the quiet, unglamorous acts of compassion that often went unnoticed. He stayed connected with Emma and her family, visiting them occasionally and supporting the foundation from behind the scenes. For Emma, life returned to a sense of normalcy, but with a new purpose. She was no longer just a little girl selling lemonade. She was a symbol of what could happen when love and determination met the power of community. Challenges on the horizon. With the growing success of Emma's Hope Foundation, life seemed brighter than ever for Emma, her family, and everyone who had been touched by their story. The foundation had raised over $1 million in its first 6 months, helping dozens of families cover critical medical expenses. Emma was quickly becoming a beacon of hope for children and families facing unimaginable struggles. But with growth came challenges. The weight of responsibility. One brisk autumn morning, Emma sat at the kitchen table, meticulously drawing thank you cards for the donors who had supported her foundation. Her mother, Sarah, watched her from the doorway with a mix of pride and concern. Emma's dedication was inspiring, but Sarah worried that the weight of the foundation's success was becoming too much for her little girl to bear. "Emma, sweetheart," Sarah said gently, sitting down beside her, "you don't have to do everything by yourself. The foundation has people who can help with this." Emma looked up, her blue eyes wide with determination. "But I want to say thank you to everyone. They're helping other kids like Danny." Sarah sighed, brushing a strand of hair from Emma's face. "I know, honey, but you're still a kid. You don't have to carry all of this on your shoulders." Emma hesitated, then nodded reluctantly. "Okay, Mommy. But just a few more cards." Sarah smiled. "Just a few." Keanu steps in meanwhile. Keanu Reeves had been closely following the foundation's progress. He was thrilled to see the impact Emma was making, but he also recognized the strain it was putting on the family. One afternoon, he decided to visit Emma and Sarah to offer his support. When he arrived, Emma greeted him with her usual enthusiasm. "Keanu, "I'm so glad you're here," she exclaimed, running to hug him. Keanu crouched down to her level, smiling warmly. "Hey, Emma. How's everything going?" "It's good," she said, her voice brimming with excitement. "We're helping so many kids." Keanu glanced at Sarah, who stood nearby, looking both proud and weary. "Can I talk to your mom for a minute?" he asked Emma. Emma nodded and skipped off to the living room, leaving Keanu and Sarah in the kitchen. "She's incredible," Keanu said, leaning against the counter. "But I can see this is a lot for her, and for you." Sarah sighed, her shoulders slumping. "It is. We're so grateful for everything that's happened, but managing the foundation, taking care of Danny, and making sure Emma still gets to be a kid, it's overwhelming." Keanu nodded thoughtfully. "I've seen this kind of thing before. When something grows this fast, it can feel like it's out of control. But you don't have to do it alone. Have you thought about bringing in more support?" "We've talked about it," Sarah admitted, "but it's hard to know who to trust." Keanu smiled reassuringly. "I know some people who can help. They've worked with nonprofits before and can take on some of the day-to-day responsibilities so you can focus on your family." Sarah hesitated, then nodded. "That would be amazing. I just want to make sure we stay true to what this is all about." "You will," Keanu said, "because you and Emma are the heart of this. No one can take that away." A crisis of confidence. Despite the extra help, the weight of her growing fame began to take a toll on Emma. At school, classmates who once treated her as just another kid now saw her as the girl with the foundation. Teachers singled her out as a role model, and while she appreciated their praise, it made her feel different, like she couldn't just be Emma anymore. One day, after a particularly overwhelming school assembly where Emma had been asked to speak about her foundation, she came home in tears. "I don't want to do this anymore," she sobbed, burying her face in her mother's lap. "I just want to be normal." Sarah's heart broke for her daughter. She held Emma close, stroking her hair. "Oh, sweetheart, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize how much this was hurting you." Emma sniffled. "I love helping people, but it's too much. Everyone's always looking at me, and I don't know what to say." That evening, Sarah called Keanu to share what had happened. "I don't know what to do," she said. "Emma wants to help, but it's clear this is too much for her." Keanu listened carefully, then said, "I'll come by tomorrow. Maybe I can talk to her." A heart-to-heart with Emma. The next day, Keanu found Emma sitting in the backyard, her lemonade stand now a permanent fixture in the corner. She was staring at the ground, her usual spark missing. "Hey, Emma," Keanu said, sitting down beside her. "Your mom told me you're feeling a little overwhelmed." Emma nodded, not meeting his eyes. "I just don't want to let anyone down." Keanu smiled gently. "You know, when I was younger, I felt the same way. People expected so much from me, and I didn't want to disappoint them. But then I realized something. It's okay to take a step back. It's okay to say no." Emma looked up at him, her eyes wide. "But what about all the kids who need help?" "They'll still get help," Keanu assured her. "You've already done something amazing by starting this foundation. But you don't have to do everything by yourself. There are lots of people who want to help, just like you did. You can let them carry some of the weight." Emma thought about this for a moment, then nodded. "Okay, but can I still sell lemonade sometimes?" Keanu chuckled. "Of course. You're the boss, remember." A new balance. With Keanu's guidance, Emma and her family found a way to balance the foundation's responsibilities with their personal lives. Professional staff took over the day-to-day operations, allowing Sarah and her husband to focus on their kids. Emma continued to be the face of the foundation, but in a way that felt manageable and true to who she was. Meanwhile, Keanu stayed involved, lending his support quietly and ensuring the foundation stayed true to its mission. He also made a point to check in on Emma regularly, becoming a trusted mentor and friend. The power of community. Months later, the foundation held its first annual gala, bringing together families, donors, and supporters to celebrate the lives that had been changed. Emma, now more confident and at peace, took the stage to thank everyone. "When I started my lemonade stand, I just wanted to help my brother," she said, her voice steady and clear. "I never thought it would turn into something like this. But I've learned that when people come together, they can do amazing things. So thank you for helping kids like Danny, for believing in me, and for showing that kindness can change the world." The room erupted in applause, and as Emma stepped off the stage, Keanu was there waiting for her. "You did great," he said, giving her a high five. Emma grinned. "Thanks. You were right. It's okay to let other people help." Keanu smiled, his heart full. "It sure is, Emma. And you've shown everyone what's possible when we do." Resilience tested. Emma's Hope Foundation had grown into something extraordinary. It was no longer just a small initiative born from a little girl's lemonade stand. It had become a movement that inspired people worldwide. Stories of families being helped poured in daily, and Emma, her family, and Keanu Reeves felt proud to see how far their work had come. But with greater success came greater challenges. What had once been a simple effort to help Danny was now a nationally recognized organization, and managing its growth began to stretch the limits of even the most seasoned professionals. For Emma and her family, life was about to take an unexpected turn. The first storm. It started with a viral social media post. A prominent influencer questioned the foundation's ability to manage its funds, citing its rapid growth as a potential red flag. The post wasn't malicious, but it planted seeds of doubt. Before long, comments began flooding in, with people demanding transparency and proof of how donations were being spent. Emma's mother, Sarah, was blindsided. She had always insisted on keeping the foundation's operations above board, and financial reports were readily available. Still, the sheer volume of questions and accusations was overwhelming. One afternoon, Sarah sat at the kitchen table, her head in her hands. Keanu had stopped by for a visit, and found her in tears. "What's going on?" Keanu asked gently, pulling up a chair beside her. Sarah sighed, wiping her eyes. "People are questioning the foundation. They're saying we're not using the money properly. I don't know what to do." Keanu frowned. "Have you responded to the accusations?" "We've posted statements and shared our financial reports, but it doesn't seem to be enough." "People are still angry," Sarah said, her voice trembling. "I'm worried it's going to hurt Emma. She doesn't deserve this." Keanu leaned back, his expression thoughtful. "This isn't about you or Emma. It's about the way the world works. When something good happens, there are always people who want to tear it down. But we can handle this. Let's get ahead of it." Damage control. Keanu called Hannah, who had been instrumental in helping the foundation from the start. Together, they devised a plan to address the controversy head-on. They organized a live-streamed Q&A session, where Sarah, Emma, and the foundation's board members would answer questions directly from the public. Keanu agreed to moderate the session, using his influence to draw attention to the truth. The night of the livestream, Sarah was nervous. She paced back and forth in the living room, wringing her hands. Emma sat on the couch, holding her mother's hand. "Mommy, are people going to be mean to us?" Emma asked quietly. Sarah knelt down and cupped her daughter's face in her hands. "No matter what happens, Emma, we know the truth. We're doing this to help people. That's what matters." Keanu placed a reassuring hand on Sarah's shoulder. "You've got this. Just be honest and let people see the incredible work you've done." When the live stream began, thousands of viewers tuned in. The questions came fast, some supportive, others skeptical. Sarah spoke with poise, explaining how the foundation operated and detailing the families they had helped. Keanu stepped in when tensions rose, using his calm demeanor to diffuse difficult moments. Then, Emma spoke. "I started my lemonade stand to help my brother," she said, her small voice carrying a weight far beyond her years. "Now we're helping other kids too. My mommy and daddy work really hard to make sure the money helps people. I just want everyone to know that we're trying our best." Her words, simple yet sincere, resonated with viewers. By the end of the live stream, the tone of the comments had shifted. People praised Emma's bravery and the foundation's transparency. Donations began pouring in again, and the cloud of doubt started to lift. The unexpected visitor. A week later, as life began to return to normal, Sarah received a surprising phone call. On the other end of the line was a representative from a major corporate sponsor, one that had been following the foundation's journey from the beginning. "We saw how you handled the recent challenges," the representative said. "Your honesty and commitment are inspiring. We'd like to offer our support to Emma's Hope Foundation." Sarah was stunned. "Support? What kind of support?" "A significant financial contribution," the representative explained, "and resources to help expand your operations, staffing, technology, whatever you need to continue your work." Tears welled up in Sarah's eyes. "I don't know what to say. Thank you." "It's our pleasure," the representative said. "Your story reminds us of what really matters. A family rediscovered." While the foundation thrived, Emma's family found themselves in a much better place. Danny's health continued to improve, and for the first time in years, Sarah and her husband felt like they could breathe. They even managed to take a small family vacation, a luxury they hadn't been able to afford in years. During the trip, Keanu surprised them by showing up for a day. He spent the afternoon playing soccer with Danny, building sandcastles with Emma, and sharing stories with Sarah and her husband. It was a rare moment of peace and joy, and it reminded them all of why they had started this journey in the first place. The bigger picture. As Emma's Hope Foundation entered its second year, it became clear that its impact went far beyond the families it directly helped. Schools began incorporating Emma's story into their curriculum, teaching students about kindness, resilience, and the power of community. Other children started their own fundraising efforts, inspired by Emma's lemonade stand. Keanu, ever humble, continued to support the foundation quietly. He declined interviews about his involvement, insisting that the focus remain on Emma and her family. But his influence was undeniable. His presence lent credibility to the foundation and attracted supporters from all walks of life. A new chapter. One evening, as Emma sat on the porch with Keanu, she asked a question that had been on her mind for a while. "Keanu, why do you help us so much?" she asked, her blue eyes wide with curiosity. Keanu smiled, looking out at the setting sun. "Because you remind me of the best parts of people. You remind me that even when life gets hard, we can choose to do something good. And when I see how much you love your brother, it makes me want to be a better person." Emma thought about this, then nodded. "I'm glad you're my friend." "I'm glad too," Keanu said, ruffling her hair. "You're one of the coolest people I know." As the sun dipped below the horizon, Emma's Hope Foundation stood as a testament to what could be achieved when people came together with love and purpose. The challenges they had faced only made them stronger, and their story continued to inspire millions. The world takes notice. Emma's Hope Foundation had grown into a global phenomenon. What started as a little girl selling lemonade to help her brother had now reached international levels, providing aid to children and families in over a dozen countries. Donations poured in from across the globe, and the foundation's story was featured in major media outlets, capturing the hearts of millions. Despite the growing attention, Emma remained the same sweet, humble girl she had always been. But as her influence expanded, so did the challenges. It was now time for her and her family to face their biggest test yet, staying grounded while navigating the complexities of running a global movement. An international spotlight. One morning, Sarah received an email from a prestigious global organization, the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF. They wanted to partner with Emma's Hope Foundation to expand its reach and impact even further. The proposal included hosting an international summit on childhood health, with Emma as the keynote speaker. When Sarah shared the news with Emma, The little girl's eyes widened in surprise. They want me to speak, but I'm just a kid. Sarah smiled and knelt down to her daughter's level. Emma, you've already inspired so many people. This is your chance to tell your story and show the world what one person can do. Emma hesitated, biting her lip. What if I mess up? Keanu, who had stopped by for one of his regular visits, overheard the conversation and chimed in. Emma, you've got nothing to worry about. Just be yourself. People don't want you to be perfect. They want to hear your heart. Emma looked up at him, her expression softening. Okay, I'll do it. Preparing for the big day. Over the next few weeks, Emma worked tirelessly to prepare for her speech. Keanu and Sarah helped her write and practice, but they made sure her words stayed true to her voice. Emma insisted on including stories about her brother Danny and the families the foundation had helped, wanting to remind people of the real lives behind the statistics. One evening, as they rehearsed in the living room, Emma turned to Keanu. What if people don't listen? What if they don't care? Keanu crouched down beside her, looking her in the eye. Emma, I promise you, they'll listen. And even if just one person in that room decides to help because of you, that's enough. You've already made a difference. Emma nodded, his words filling her with a quiet confidence. The summit. The day of the International Summit arrived. The event was held in a grand hall in Geneva, Switzerland, attended by world leaders, philanthropists, and activists. Emma, dressed in a simple but elegant dress, walked onto the stage with Sarah by her side. The audience rose to their feet in applause, their admiration palpable. Keanu sat in the front row, giving Emma a thumbs up as she approached the microphone. She took a deep breath, her small hands gripping the podium. Hi, everyone. Emma began, her voice trembling slightly. My name is Emma, and I'm 8 years old. I'm here today because of my little brother Danny. When he got really sick, I started a lemonade stand to help him. I didn't think anyone would notice, but a lot of people did. And together, we were able to help Danny and so many other kids. As Emma continued, her confidence grew. She spoke about the families the foundation had helped, the importance of kindness, and how even small actions could lead to big changes. My mommy always says that no one can do everything, but everyone can do something, Emma said, her voice steady. And I think that's true. If we all do something, we can help so many kids. Thank you for listening to my story. The room erupted into a standing ovation. Emma's speech had touched every person in the audience, leaving many in tears. Keanu watched with pride as Emma smiled shyly and waved before stepping off the stage. New challenges. The success of the summit brought even more attention to Emma's Hope Foundation, but it also introduced new challenges. Managing partnerships with international organizations required resources and expertise that the foundation didn't yet have. Sarah found herself stretched thin, trying to balance the demands of the foundation with her responsibilities as a mother. Keanu, ever the quiet supporter, stepped in once again. Sarah, you don't have to do this alone, he said during one of their regular meetings. Let's bring in experts who can help you navigate this. Sarah nodded, her eyes tired but grateful. I just don't want to lose what makes the foundation special. This all started because of Emma's love for Danny. I don't want it to turn into something that feels corporate. It won't, Keanu assured her, because you'll be at the heart of it. And I'll make sure that everyone who comes on board understands what this is really about. Emma's realization. As the foundation continued to grow, Emma began to grapple with her own feelings about the movement she had started. One evening, she sat on the porch with Keanu, watching the sun set over the horizon. Keanu, do you think I'll always have to talk about the foundation? She asked, her voice tinged with uncertainty. Keanu thought for a moment before answering. Emma, the foundation is part of your story, but it's not all of who you are. You're allowed to be a kid, to dream about other things, and to figure out who you want to be. Helping people will always be a part of you, but it doesn't have to be the only thing. Emma nodded, his words sinking in. I want to keep helping people, but sometimes I just want to play with Danny and my friends." "And that's okay," Keanu said with a smile. "You've already done more than most people do in a lifetime. You've earned the right to just be Emma." A new direction. With Keanu's guidance, Emma and her family decided to take a step back from the day-to-day operations of the foundation. They hired a team of experienced professionals to manage its growth, ensuring that the work would continue while allowing the family to focus on each other. Emma returned to her lemonade stand, not as the face of a global movement, but as a little girl who loved selling lemonade. Danny, now healthy and full of energy, often joined her, and the two siblings spent their afternoons laughing and playing, just as they had before his illness. The legacy lives on. Though Emma's role in the foundation became less public, her impact continued to ripple across the world. Schools, communities, and families drew inspiration from her story, starting their own initiatives to help others. The phrase "Emma's Hope" became synonymous with resilience, kindness, and the power of one small act to create change. As for Keanu, he remained a steadfast supporter, always ready to lend a helping hand or a kind word. But more than anything, he cherished his role as a mentor and friend to Emma and her family. Years later, as Emma prepared to graduate high school, she reflected on the journey that had brought her to that moment. Standing beside her at the ceremony, Keanu smiled and said, "You've changed the world, Emma. But more importantly, you've stayed true to yourself. That's what matters most." Emma looked up at him, her eyes shining. "Thank you, Keanu, for everything." And as the crowd cheered for Emma, it was clear that her story, rooted in love, resilience, and the extraordinary power of kindness, would continue to inspire generations to come.